everyone, Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you all are with me. Today's video is going to be another recommendations video, which I'm really excited about, and honestly what prompted me to make this list for this video is because I recently read Pen Pal and absolutely loved it. And it's a really unique storyline, and I consider a romance, although I know some people don't consider a romance, but I do, and I think it's a very unique romance, so I thought I would pick out some other romances that I think are unique and recommend them for you. So this list that I'm going to go through of books, some of these they're like unique, and like I think the concept is unique. There's something different about them. There's something that either I have never read before or I have read it before, but it's just done really well in this particular like book that I'm going to be recommending. So yeah. So first book, of course, is going to be Pen Pal by J.T. Geisinger. This one is more of, it's like a romantic thriller, erotic thriller, mystery, somewhere along those lines. And I don't want to say too much about it because I really feel like you should just go into it. There are lots of twists to this book, so just know that. But this is about this woman who, at the very beginning of this book, she is kind of going through the grieving process a little bit. Her husband has died. She is fed up with they have an old house and lots of things are going wrong with it. So she is calling different like repair people to try to repair different things in her house. But then she's also getting these letters from this man from prison whom she has never met before. She has no idea who this person is, but is sending her like love letters that he is like waiting for her. So she doesn't know what is going on, and there's all these like weird things that are happening in the house. But basically that's how this book starts out. But like I said, there's lots of twists in this. It is mysterious, kind of thrillery, but there is an HEA at the end. It isn't a untraditional HEA, but I do consider it an HEA, therefore it is a romance. This is very steamy and I absolutely loved it. This is probably going to be one of my favorite books that I've read this year. So the other books that kind of spawned this list, next one is going to be Transcendence by Shay Savage. This is, I don't know if you consider this like a historical romance, maybe, I guess. This is a time travel romance with cavemen. I've never read anything like that involving a caveman, but this is about this girl, and she is, I believe she's with like a class, and they're going through this like museum, and her parents work there, if I'm remembering correctly, and they are like working on some project, and she ends up time traveling back in time to the age of cavemen, and she meets this man. And this also has one of my favorite tropes, which is like the not miscommunication, but there's like a language barrier. It has that trope in it, and I am a sucker for that trope. Our caveman person, you know, they haven't really developed language too much yet, so the communication between these two people, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time for them to kind of trust each other. And I absolutely loved it. The way that these two characters end up falling in love with each other, even though there is so many barriers between them, is just absolutely beautiful. And I was so blown away by this. I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. So I would definitely recommend this one. Our next book is going to be The Unrequited by Saffron A. Kent. Now this has a lot of tropes in it that are not new. This is a student-teacher romance. This is between a professor, his like college age, but there are some trigger warnings in this for like cheating. I found this one to be unique mostly because, and I don't know for sure if this is how the author intended this story to go, but I mostly see this as kind of just a different take on that trope, because this is, It is a romance and it does end in HEA, but it takes a lot of stuff for our characters to get through that. This is kind of one of those things that it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I personally saw this book as a complete train wreck in the absolute best way possible. Our heroine of this story, she's a student, but she has some like psychiatric kind of stuff going on. She is absolutely obsessed with this guy, thinks that they're completely in love. She ends up being kind of stalkerish to this guy, and she's going through therapy and they keep telling her that she needs to stop this. So she ends up kind of transferring her feelings towards her professor, and some things happen. But it takes a lot of things to get worse before both of these characters, because they're not in very good places at the beginning of this story, both of our characters. So it takes things getting worse for them to grow as individuals and become better people and be better for each other so that they can be together, if that kind of makes sense. So that's how this whole story was kind of set up. That's how I think it's unique. And like I said, I could be just totally making this up and just seeing things how I want to see them. I have no idea if this author intended this book to be this way, but I'm choosing to view it like that. And if I do it that way, I absolutely love this book and I really recommend it. Then I'm recommending the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa. This is a great series. This is about the four horsemen of the apocalypse and the women that fall in love with them. So I found this to be very unique because this is very definitely that enemies to lovers, anti-hero, but I was also kind of like, what is more anti-hero? The most difficult kind of person to fall in love with is these people that are literally their entire purpose is to wipe out humanity. So, and them having to somewhat overcome that and get past that, and how these women fall in love with these men. And this whole series is wonderful. Many trigger warnings, so make sure you check those out. But I absolutely love this series. The next book that I have to talk about is going to be Void, and I mentioned this book in a lot of my recommendation videos just because I feel like it's very underhyped and I feel like it deserves a lot more hype than it gets. But this book is by Coralie June and Raven Kennedy. This is a paranormal standalone romance, but what makes this one unique is our heroine of the story. So there's lots of factions in this world. There's like vampires, there's werewolves, there's I think witches or some form of that, and you all belong into like a faction and you go to school and you learn about like your powers. But our heroine of the story, she has no powers, and then they find out that her power is actually to take away everybody else's power if they touch her. So she's kind of why the title of this book, she is like a void. So nobody likes her because they don't want their powers taken away from her. But there's a lot of things that go into it. Things might not be as they seem. So she ends up going to this magical school and kind of learning a little bit more. And she meets these people. This does end up turning into a reverse harem story if you're into that. And I just thought this was so unique and I absolutely loved it. Then we have Porn Star by Laura Lynn Page and Sierra Simone. This book is solely on here just because I've never read a porn star romance, and I really liked the take that these two women brought to that, because yes, there's going to be lots of steamy, sexy times in this story, but it's kind of like our hero, who is a porn star, he wants to be known for more than just being a porn star, and he wants to actually make artful videos and be taken more seriously, while also he's falling in love with another porn star and them trying to figure out, like, they have the sexual relationship, but what does that mean for having more than that? Can they do that? And then they're also working together and just trying to navigate all of those. So that's mostly why I put this on this list, because like I said, I haven't read any other types of romances that involve a porn star. Then I have Pleasure Unbound by Larissa Ione. This is the first book in her, I believe it's called the Demonica series, which this is the only one that I've ever read, but I really need to read the other ones. This one, I have this on this list because this one is about a demon hospital. So we have our heroine, excuse me, and she is kind of like a demon slayer, and she is out and she is hunting down these demons, and she gets mistaken by these demons when she hurts a demon, and they end up taking her to their demon hospital, and she has a demon doctor that helps her recover from her injuries and saves her life, whom they end up falling in love with each other. So it's got that whole enemies to lovers, forbidden love kind of trope to it. But I just thought that was absolutely fascinating that demons have a hospital and there's a doctor that, you know, helps to patch up. Like, it, you would think that obviously that's like something that would happen, but I just thought that was such a unique premise, and I love seeing that in a paranormal romance book. Then the next book we have is going to be Devil's Day Party by C.M. Stunich. This has a lot of those same tropes that you see a lot. This is a reverse harem story. This is a bully romance. But what makes this one unique is basically it is Groundhog Day. If you've ever seen that movie where the guy has to repeat the same day over and over and over again, that is what this story is. Our heroine of the story, the very first like chapter or two, she ends up dying. And then the next day she repeats the whole day again, and she doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't know why the days keep repeating. She doesn't know why she keeps dying and coming back to life. So this whole story is her trying to figure out what is going on to help time just continue forward so she doesn't keep repeating the same day over and over again. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one and I highly recommend it. Then we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This book has a lot of hype recently, and I think it's pretty well deserved, the hype for it. This is such a unique premise because this is about our two characters. There's our heroine, and then the hero is her sister's fiance. Well, they're driving one day and they both get kidnapped and taken, and they are chained up in this guy's basement, and he ends up raping her and forcing our hero to also rape her. And there's a lot of things that go down. This is definitely a dark romance. Lots of trigger warnings in this one. But they end up falling in love with each other. And that is honestly the first half of this book. And then the rest of it is them just kind of dealing with what happened to them, what's going on, the whole aftermath. Coming to terms with things while also coming to terms that they have fallen in love with each other, and what they're gonna do with that, because he is supposed to get married to her sister. It's just a whole big thing, but I absolutely loved it. I loved their struggle. I loved their growth that they had, especially with each other, but then also individually. And it was a beautiful story, and I absolutely loved it. Then the last book that I have to recommend is going to be 11 Hours by Octavia Jensen. This is actually a novella, but this is about two characters. They work together, but they're kind of enemies. They don't really get along I think they're at a law office. And they're both at the office really late one night, and they are getting on the elevator to go home when the elevator stops and they get stuck on the elevator. So the title of this book, 11 Hours, is a nod to that is how many hours that they are stuck on this elevator for. So each chapter is the next hour, and it's basically just every hour the chapter is kind of talking about what is going on. So they have, even though they're enemies, they have an insane sexual attraction to one another. So they're kind of just working through like talking things out, why they don't like each other. and where things go from there. This is definitely a steamy story, I will tell you that, and I love that. I loved that whole forced proximity trope and how they're stuck in this elevator. There's literally nowhere that they can go. And then there's also a bit of comfort that's going on because it is kind of a panicky kind of situation, and so they're trying to like help each other just stay calm through it all until help can arrive and they can be rescued. And I, like I said, really love this. There is more books in this series that she has, and I can't wait to read more of those because this was great and y'all should read it. But yes, so there's going to be my list of unique romances that I think you should check out. Make sure if you like this video that you give the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And if you like my videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can see more content from me. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.